We're taking a very early look at the Week 1 waiver wire next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers here on the Tuesday, August 30th episode with Dave Richard. And we're here to talk about some targets for your first waiver wire runs of the season. And look, I know most drafts probably haven't taken place. I know last weekend was a big draft weekend. I had one of my home leagues, but I still got a bunch of drafts left. I'm sure you guys do too. So look, if you haven't drafted yet, don't turn off the podcast, because this can still be useful, because just think about it as late round targets. But these are guys who are going after 150 in the CBS Sports average draft position data. And so, if you want to think about it as guys to target with your last pick, guys to target with your first waiver wire run, we just want to help you find some rare gems. So I'll give you a couple of running backs to start it off before we move to Dave's picks, who could have some week 1 appeal. Raheem Mostert, Miami Dolphins running back, and Amir Abdullah for the Las Vegas Raiders. Those guys both look like they'll have week 1 roles. I'm not saying there's a huge upside here, but if you're someone like me who has Cam Akers as my RB2 in one of my leagues, it's not 100% clear he's going to be ready for week 1. So Amir Abdullah is someone last night I grabbed for $1 in one of my salary cap drafts, just in case I need a week 1 option in a PPR league, because it's the Josh McDaniels offense. It sounds like Amir Abdullah has that third down role locked up. And for Raheem Mostert, it's just he's got experience in Mike McDaniels' offense, the one that he's installing that comes over from Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. He's fast, which fits the offense well. He could be a better than you think cheap running back early in the season. Injuries are going to kind of limit the upside, but I think when Raheem Mostert's healthy, and it seems like he will be for week 1, he could be pretty useful. Dave, let's get some late round targets / early waiver wire targets.
I love this, by the way, the fact that there's a bunch of people who are listening or watching and they haven't even drafted yet, and we're telling them who to go and grab either right before week 1 or maybe even right after week 1, a little bit of fortune telling by us. But this is the whole point of having a deep sleepers list, is to beat the waiver wire before the season even starts. And at 153rd overall in CBS's ADP rankings is Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert I think he's a quicker, sleeker version of David Montgomery. And there have been reports that he could end up having a decent role in the run game for Chicago. And I think the Bears need as much help as they can get on offense. He certainly qualifies. And I also want to mention that I want to pick players here who I think could have a good week 1. So you're not going to hear me talk about Logan Thomas or Russell Gage, even though, hey, I kind of just mentioned them. You know what I'm saying? But here's a name for you, and this is a name that's been on our podcast a lot. Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. Big dude. He can move pretty well for a guy his size, and he's going to see a lot of one-on-one coverage because he's sharing the field with Brandon Cooks. I think he could end up being somebody that catches a touchdown in week 1. People get intrigued. They pick him up off the waiver wire. You can beat people to him in your leagues, and it looks like you can literally do it in round 13 or more. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Isaiah McKenzie of the Buffalo Bills, who right now is sidelined from practice. We're waiting to hear exactly what the word is. We might know it by Monday night, but I think he's going to have a very big role in that Bills offense. I've been taking him in every single league I can get him in. I had been drafting him in round 11, but now that he's gotten hurt, I wonder if I could sneak him into my roster in like round 14. And I think that that's a receiver who can end up being like a number 3 guy, maybe even a number 2 in full PPR. Just the offense that he's in, the role that he's got as the slot receiver there.
We've seen Cole Beasley finish as a top 24 wide receiver in that offense.
Cole Beasley had at least 80. He had exactly 82 catches each of the past 2 seasons. If McKenzie's getting 82 catches, he's getting 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I like that one. He's someone that I really like as a sleeper as well. Jamison Crowder. He's going to figure into the offense some. They'll play some 4 wide receiver sets. But based on the preseason, Isaiah McKenzie is the clear number 3 guy who actually even lined up on the outside a few times in the preseason. So he's not necessarily just a slot receiver. He could get in some of those 2 receiver sets. So that's a good one. And
hey, can I give one last name? This is just for Dynasty, no context. Kyle Phillips of the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot of run in the preseason as well. So I like that one.
Looks good.
And I'll say, I don't know what's going on with CBS Sports ADP, but Kadarius Toney's 152nd overall. His ADP is 140.34. He's gone undrafted in more than half of drafts that have gone on so far in CBS Sports. Look, he's not practicing right now, The Giants hope he'll be ready for week one, and that's been the problem for him. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. That's partially why the Giants were willing to move him at the NFL draft, according to reports. But he's an incredibly talented player. First round pick last season, showed some real signs of upside. If we think Brian Dable is going to take this offense to another level, which, would mean average, I think at best, but still, Kadarius Toney could be the clear number one guy in that New York Giants offense. He's going really late in CBS Sports leagues right now, so he's someone I really like targeting late, or even in the 8th or 9th round in other drafts where he's more typically being drafted. So Kadarius Toney, another guy I really like as far as the late round targets or early waiver wire if you've already drafted. That's going to do it for FFT in 5. Before we go, though, I want to remind you about our FFT draftathon that's coming up on August 31st at 6 p.m. on CBS Sports HQ and our Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel. We're raising money for a great cause with our friends at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and the link to our St. Jude donations page is in the podcast description, or you can use the QR code that's right over Dave's shoulder on this YouTube channel if you're watching, where you can bet on a bunch of awesome experiences, a one-on-one Zoom call with myself to get some advice before your draft, and you can make sure you check out the @FFT Twitter account for more of those one-of-a-kind auction experiences to raise money for our friends at St. Jude. That's going to do it. We'll see you next time on FFT in 5.